Hi all, welcome back. Assume we have a table called purchase which contains 7 records. So we have a table called purchase with a column called purchase ID, student ID, course. And purchase ID is a primary key. That means it will accept only unique value or distinct value. And it should not be null. So if you try to insert a value which is already there in the purchase ID, that means 6, you will get an error. That means the purchase ID 6 is already there. You should not be able to insert a value 6. That we saw. But assume we are maintaining a bank where there will be a transaction table with transaction ID as unique. So will it be possible to someone to sit and monitor each transaction? So someone made some transaction and we have to store the information in our transaction table where the transaction ID is unique. So we will look into the table. Already 1000 records are there. We have to give transaction ID 1001, and when someone else made some transaction, already 1001 record is there. We have to give 1002. No, it's impossible. Because in each minute there will be thousands of transactions might happen everywhere in the world, and we have to make the transaction ID unique, and it is impossible for someone to sit and monitor all the transactions and make them unique. So we have to create a table or design a table in such a way that the table itself or the database SQL Server Management Studio or SQL Server will make the transaction unique. We don't need to specify this is a transaction ID 1, next one is transaction ID 5, next one is transaction ID is 100. We don't need to specify. It should be automatic. So the concept is called auto increment, or the column we will make auto increment. So we will specify how the value or when the value should start and how the value should increase. So for that we will use identity concept or auto increment concept that we are going to explain in this video. So how we will design a table in such a way that the purchase ID should auto increment, we will use identity. So the syntax is identity, starting value, and how the value is increasing. So we are going to drop the table and recreate with the purchase ID as identity. So we drop the table. Now if you refresh, you could see there is no table called purchase. We removed. Now we are going to recreate the table with purchase ID as identity. So if you recreate, you could see we recreated the table with the purchase ID as identity. Now we recreated. Now we are going to insert some value. So if you insert some value, what will happen? You don't need to specify 3 value. Now you are going to give only student ID and course ID. So you are going to give student ID 1, course ID 1, student ID 1, course ID 2, student ID 1, course ID 3, student ID 2, course ID 1. And now if you execute select star from, you could see there are 4 records. Student ID 1, course ID 1, student ID 1, course ID 2, student ID 1, course ID 3, and student ID 2, course ID 1. And we didn't specify purchase ID. It is automatically incrementing. Starting from 1, it is automatically incrementing, and SQL Server gave this value automatically. So we don't need to specify this value anymore. But what happens if you want to specify? If you are not specifying, next record will be purchase ID 5. But we don't want to store a record with the purchase ID 5. We want to store the next record as purchase ID 6. So how we will make the next record purchase ID 6? If you try to execute an insert statement with the purchase ID 6 and student ID 1 and course ID 4, we used to give insert into purchase values. So if you execute this one, what will happen? We will get an error saying that this column purchase ID is auto increment, and you have to specify all the column where you are going to insert, as well as you have to turn off identity. So if you are going to specify all the column, you have to write insert into purchase, then the column name, purchase ID 6, student ID 1, course ID 4. So you have to give something like this, and if you execute this, still you will get an error. Why? Because the column purchase ID still is auto incrementing. So you have to turn off the auto increment. So in order to turn off auto increment, you have to write or execute set identity insert on which table? Purchase as on. So once you execute this statement, the auto increment will be disabled. So you have to execute set identity insert on purchase table on. Now we disable the identity insert. Now you have to insert the value as. Now we inserted another record with the student ID 6. Now you could see, if you execute select star from, you could see 5 record are there, but student ID, purchase ID 5 is not there. Instead purchase ID 6 is there for the record 5. And if you want to turn it back, what you need to do? You have to execute set identity insert off on which table? Purchase. So you have to execute something, set identity insert on which table? Purchase off. Now you could insert another record. So it will be inserting, and you could see, if you execute select star from, you could see another one more record is there with the identity value 7, which is starting from 6. Already 6 is there, now 7 is there, and we are missing 5 there because we manually inserted value 6. So that's a way we could use identity insert. Now let us see the remaining part. Now we have a table called student. There we have some value. We have some 15 values there. So this value per student ID is primary key. So the value will be unique. That we saw how we could use student ID, either primary key or unique key, and make it unique. Now if you want to make student ID also unique or auto increment, how we could do? There are two ways there. One will be dropping the table and recreating. So that's the best way or easy way. So we are going to drop the table, and once you drop, you have to recreate that same table with the identity. So we are going to specify student ID should start from value 100, or the first student ID of the first record will be 100, and whenever some other student ID we are inserting, it should be increment by 2. So we specify student ID as identity or auto increment starting from 100, it should increase by 2, and we are creating the table. Now we created. Now we are going to insert some records. So we are going to insert some record. Now we don't need to specify student ID. So if you execute, 4 record we inserted, and let's see what is the value. Earlier there was so many value. Now we have only 4 records in the student. So if you execute select student ID name, age, sex, phone from student, we will get 4 record, and you could see student ID is 100, 102, 104, 106. This is one way of making one column identity. That means dropping the table and recreating with the identity. And there is another way also there. You could use alter table, drop the column. So we want to assume we want to make the column course ID as auto increment. We don't want to use identity, or we don't want to drop the table and recreate with the identity. Instead we want to drop this column only. So we will drop this column and recreate again. So first we will do I think there is no table called course details. So we will create a table without identity, and we are going to Now we have course ID integer. Now we want to remove the course ID and recreate with the identity. So how we will do? We will remove the column. First we will remove the column. So first we will see what is the value or which are the column is available. So you could see course detail is there, and if you see the column, you could see course ID, course name, duration, remarks, fee, all are there. Now we are going to remove the column. So we will write a statement, alter table, table name, drop column, course ID. Now we removed course ID. So let's refresh and see. Now we don't have course ID in the column or in the table called course details. Now we are going to add the same column back again, but this time we are mentioning this column as a primary key, as well as we are supposed to start or make it as a auto increment starting from 1, increment by value 1. So we are going to execute this. Now we recreated the new column called course ID. So if you refresh, you could see one more column has been created there, and the value course ID primary key, and it will be auto increment. So in this video we saw how to make a table auto increment by using identity, and how to start the value from 100 or 200, and how to increment by 1 or some other value. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.